Welcome to this third video on zero-based budgeting and cash flow management using the Managing My Money Excel tool. In the first two videos, I gave an overview of the Managing My Money tool and walked through zero-based budget creation in detail. In this video, we'll take the next step into annual expense planning. Annual expense planning is done one time per year after creation of the zero-based budget. During creation of the zero-based budget, we allocated money to both monthly expenses and annual expenses. As monthly expenses occur every month, they do not need further planning. However, annual expenses can impact the overall cash flow because they are infrequent, and therefore they need additional planning. How to do this planning is shown in the following demos. First, we'll go through a planning screen orientation, then talk about the planning process, and finally, I'll give an example planning session. There are 4 major sections and 3 health indicators on this screen. The major sections are Income, Buffer, Plan Manage, and Allocate. The Income section is always shown at the top as a header area, but you can collapse each of the other 3 sections as shown using the green section name buttons on the left. Let's start from the bottom up. First, the Allocate section. The Allocate section is an optional read-only report that shows individual category rollovers. You do not really need to use this report unless you are a financial detailist and want to, but key for everyone is the area on the far right where you can put in comments per category for any details that you want to record. For example, I noted here that my auto insurance is due in May and November, and that I have to replace the tires in my car in August, and that back to school's clothing needs to be purchased in August, and that a periodic hair coloring expense occurs in March and September. Now let's take a look at the Plan Manage section. The Plan Manage section is where you will enter your initial spend plan and where you will manage it throughout the year on a monthly basis. Let's take a look at this one from left to right on the screen. All of your past expenses will show up in the actual columns on the left in the gray colored cells. The current month is highlighted in blue at the top, and you can see both the planned expenses for this month in bright yellow and the actual expenses in gray. Also note that some of the cells in the current month plan have a red dot. This indicates that a hint or comment is available. For example, if you hover your mouse over the auto insurance dot, it will show your note reminding you that tires need replacement in August and that oil changes are due in March, July, and November. Also, if you hover over the clothing dot, it will remind you that the money allocated in August is for back-to-school clothing. All future months show your future planned expenses in the plan columns in muted yellow coloring. On the right is the plan balance box. The objective is to keep this box green, which means that you are on plan for the year. The buffer section. So the buffer section is used to view the health of your rollover funds account and is tied to a separate forecast screen. I'll discuss the buffer health in my next video on forecasting and cash flow. Let's go over what to do for the one-time plan setup done at the beginning of a year. The 4-step process touches all of the 4 sections as follows. First, on the income section, confirm that the starting year and the starting month, in this case, let me scroll to the left so you can see the starting month here is January. Confirm that the starting year and the starting month are correct. If it's not correct, you will need to go to the income screen and make the change there. Second, in the buffer section, you enter the starting buffer account balance in this yellow cell, if there is a balance. The buffer account should not be used for savings. This is only used for holding rollover money that is planned for future expenses. The starting balance box here is just to capture any remaining balance from last year's budget or any money you already have set aside for this purpose. Then on third, in the Plan Manage section, you'll enter in a spending plan for every category between now and end of the year, all the ones that are in the muted yellow that say Plan. Finally, in the Allocate section, you will enter any optional notes, as we showed before, that you would like to capture to remind you of why you allocated spending in a certain way. And that is it for the initial setup. We are doing a one-time setup of the annual expense plan. Step number 1 is to confirm the start month and year. On the screen we can see that the starting month is set for January of 2021, but that we are currently in March, which is highlighted in blue. This gives us a planned balance of $8,710 as we see on the forecast screen, because it thinks that we've already passed through January and February without spending anything we had planned for monthly expenses, and all that extra money is rolled over into our annual plan for allocation. So there are two options here. One, we can leave the starting month as January and we can go back and enter all expenses in the past from January and February. Or two, we can change the starting month to March and not have to worry about entering and categorizing expenses from the past. So for this demo, we'll choose to start in March. To do that, we will go to the income screen and select the starting month and change it to March. You'll see that this will move around your income plan and comments. For example, the January $1,000 bonus moved from the first column to the second to the last column, staying in January. When that's done, go back to the Manage Year tab, and you'll see now that the plan balance is now 0 because the starting month is the current month. And we don't have to enter any past transactions. So step 1 was to confirm the starting month and year, which we did. Step 2 is to set the starting buffer balance, if any. So we'll go to the buffer section. So in this example, I'm going to assume that I have $2,000 in my checking account right now at the end of last month, end of February, which I had planned to use for expenses, in this month or coming months. So it's not savings. This was money in my checking. So I'm going to put $2,000 in the starting buffer balance. And because I'm not at the end of March yet, I'm going to go ahead and leave this end of month balance blank. I know that I had $2,000 at the end of last month. Okay, the next step is to enter the spending plan notes. So the notes are in the allocate section. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the allocate section and enter in the notes. So I've entered in notes. I pasted in my notes, but you just enter in notes that give yourself some ideas on what you want to do for this year in allocating your expenses. And then the last step is to go to the Plan Manage section and actually fill in the annual expense plan. So I'm going to start by pulling up the notes that I just entered in the allocate section. So you'll notice that in the March plan section, there's no red dots, which means I don't have any notes yet. To pull up the notes, you just have to edit any of these values. I'm going to put a 0 in here, hit enter, and then you'll see all the red dots will appear as it pulls up the notes. So now if I hover over, I can see my notes. So we'll now start by following this and entering the expenses per the notes that I had put in. So in this case, I had said for auto insurance, March and September, $500 each is when I pay. So I'm going to go ahead and do that one. I'm going to say $500 in March, and then September, $500. You'll notice something. You look at the very last column. As I enter in these numbers, it will reduce it from the last column. That's because by default, if you don't enter any expense plan, it's going to accumulate the money and assume that you plan to spend it all on the last month of the year. And then as you enter in values on earlier months, it will subtract them from the final month. So, um, and by the way, in some of these, I'll leave it just like this. For example, when I get to medical expenses, I don't know when I'm going to have any medical expenses, so I'm not going to enter a spending plan. I'll just leave it all at the end of the year, and then that way, as expenses arise, it'll just pull it from that. It'll pull forward and draw off on those funds um, when I need them. But what I want to do is I want to enter in now. I'm only entering in really the things where I have a reasonable knowledge about where those expenses are going to happen. So auto insurance, I know that I'm going to get billed twice a year. Auto maintenance, if I look at my comments, I said that, tires in August, and then I'm going to have trips in July and December, so I want some pre-trip checkups. I'm going to do $300 each of those. So I said July, August, and December. And you'll see that the last month of the year, it is going to leave me with $1,600, which I'm going to just leave there. If my car breaks down and I need to take it in anytime during the year, it'll pull on those funds. I can use those funds. Okay, auto registration, I said that was all going to happen in February. It's already there, so I don't have to do anything. Clothing, I said $500, I think, in August. Remember, this is just a notional plan. This can always change later. This is just to help you see where your money is going to be spent during the year. Okay, gifts given. I know I need 500. I'm in a plan for approximately, 500 for Christmas. That's the only thing I know. The other ones I'll probably spend sometime else during the year. Office supplies. Okay, quarterly I have some expenses, so I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, quarterly March. Let's say June. Oh, I'll do September and December. Oh, I got that wrong. That was, I put the home maintenance instead of office supplies because I put them a level up. So I'm just going to grab those and drag them down. And I'll zero these ones out. I can actually zero it out by grabbing. Because the home maintenance, you'll notice there's no comment. So which means I'm just going to drag this across and get rid of all those. It, that means that I'm going to just leave it all at the end of the year because I don't know when I need it. Whenever I need it, I'll draw on those funds. Okay, yard upkeep though, I do know that I have a monthly lawn for $100 a month. And then the rest is just going to be, so in this case, I'll do the same thing. I'll grab that $100 and I will drag it across. And then up until, but I won't overwrite the last month of the year because that'll just have whatever's left over I can use for other yard things during the summer. Okay, flood insurance, I know I need that in July, so I'll just allocate all of it in July. My hazard insurance is also in July. My HOA is going to be in January, so it's going to be here. Medical, I'm going to leave. I don't know when I'm going to need any medical expenses. Haircuts, I know that I'm going to plan on like $50 a month in haircuts, and then I said something like 175 a few times a year for some hair coloring for somebody in the family. So I will go and say, just put those in there somewhere, right, where I think that would happen. Something like, Okay, then the gym, I have an auto renewal in October for 2,900, and the rest is 100 for the month, every month. So I have two different things I'm doing for my health. One is a monthly expense, and the other one is an annual that I pay in October. The nails, well, I'm not going to do that. I'll just use it when I need it. Pet care, I know I'll just plan roughly 120 a month. So remember, these are rough numbers to get just to help you plan and kind of see how you're going to be spending your money. Savings plan, I think I said monthly, so we'll do like 175 a month. Drag that across. And then, okay, so travel, I had said I was going to have 2 trips, one in July and one in December, 15 each. So I'll go ahead and go to July 1500 and December 1500. So now the utilities is where it gets interesting because it varies a lot. So here the comment I put is it ranges from 60 to 200 and it's higher in the summer. So I'll just go and start by saying about 60. That's the low end of the range. I'm going to just drag that across as kind of a base. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to increase it because I know it goes up over the summer. So I'm going to say 80, then 150, then 200. And I'm going to say, okay, 200 for, a few months, say until September, till the worst of the summer's over. And then I'll wrap it back down to 150. So you can see that this is a kind of a thing that would be a bit harder to manage in a monthly budget, right? So then the gas is kind of the opposite. So this one I said it was range from 20 to 60, higher in the winter. So I'm going to say, okay, 20. I'm going to drag that across. Of course, this is based upon whatever your personal experience is. You allocated that money for the year based on maybe past history. So you'll know, for example, what your range is. But in my case, let's say that in November, we go, jumps up to about 60, and we'll just carry that forward since it's higher in those months. And then utilities and sewage, very similar thing, 45 to 140. So I'll do the 45, drag it across. It's higher, in this case, the water is higher in the summer because of the watering for the lawn. So I'm going to ramp that one up and say that in May, I'm going to go ahead and go to 100. And then in June, I'll say that's 120. And then in July, I'll say that's 130. And then let's say August and September, 140. And then watering needs go down. I'll go back down to 100. And then in November, there's really no watering. So it goes back. So and that is pretty much the end of my planning session for the first demo. I hope you found value in what you saw in the demo and what this spreadsheet can do for you. If you did, you can send an email to mmm.expenseplanning@gmail.com for instructions on how to download and use the spreadsheet. A reminder of the prerequisites are that it requires a local version of Microsoft Excel running on Windows 10 operating system.